Lockdown measures in place for 14 days. Lay forms COVID-19 committee. And school suspended for 2 weeks.
This is National MTV News with Jeremy Mogi.
Good evening, welcome to Monday's news. Wednesday, the 25th of March, has been declared by the government as the National Day of Fasting and Prayer. Community Development Minister Wake Goy, together with various church leaders, made this announcement today. The minister said it is a day for all Christians to stand together in unity and pray for the country and the world to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic.
Since the announcement of the first COVID-19 case in the country, several measures have been taken to address this biosecurity breach. This includes the declaration of a state of emergency and 14 days of shutdown. As a Christian country, the government has also declared a day of prayer for the country. Wednesday, 25th of March, was declared the National Day of Prayer and Fasting, and it will continue for 21 days.
This time where you may all get again, boom one time. Na lo trinde you may like talk out, na talk sorry, lo one something you may make me wrong. Or some point 1, point 2, you may must pray along this country so that this la sick can come inside and can bless him this la country, bless him this la government, so that you may can look forward and move forward, want to empower and strong blong God.
Today, church leaders from PNG Council of Churches and Body of Christ came together to show their support in this call. Cardinal Sir John Ribert says that churches stands united with the government to ensure people realize the importance of standing together in prayer. He said through prayer there will be healing.
And to be able to fast for the next fast and prayer for the next 21 days, I think this is a right call to all of us to participate in this, so that our participation in this helps to be able to bring healing, to be able to bring consciousness to our people.
PNG Council of Churches General Secretary Reverend Roger Joseph further highlighted the importance of prayer in this trying time. He said only prayer can restore confidence in people's mind.
We want to make that encouragement to the Christian population in Papua New Guinea, and at the same time we want to plead that we should all be loyal and faithful to these fasting days, because only and when we are together then we can be able to attract God's favor.
The National Day of Prayer and Fasting will be officially launched by the Prime Minister at the Tabernacle of Prayer Church in the nation's capital on Wednesday. Body of Christ Chairman Reverend Joseph Walters says it is important that the Prime Minister take the lead in prayer and fasting.
When the authority declares that this nation is going to pray and fast and self-denial and call on God, heaven will shout and scream and get involved, and hell will tremble and run for cover.
Rayon Lakingu, National MTV News.
The Ombudsman Commission is urging all essential state entities to maintain a reliable service to the mass population during the 14-day state of emergency period. These state entities include PNG Power, Telecom, B-Mobile, Edaranu, Water PNG, the Police, Defence and Health Department. The OC has also tasked the ICCC to ensure that prices of goods are not increased unnecessarily, as business houses will take advantage of the COVID-19 lockdown. While urging the entities, the Ombudsman Commission has also called on the state to ensure frontline entities are funded to cover necessary risk and overtime allowance for staff. The OC says all this from under the statutory obligation under Section 218A of the Constitution. A committee made up of various stakeholders in Ley, including disciplinary forces, businesses and the Morobe Provincial Health Authority, has been formed to address the COVID-19 crisis. The lead agency is the Provincial Health, who will be coordinating containment efforts. Starting tomorrow, schools and other activities will be shut down for 14 days as per the NEC directives. This will allow authorities to assess the risks. The Ley District has allocated $1 million kina for the efforts. Additional funding will be provided by the Provincial Executive Council.
At this press conference late yesterday, various stakeholders met after the Prime Minister's State of Emergency declaration to announce measures Lae City will be implementing starting tomorrow.
The measures that we are taking now, it may seem drastic, it is not cause for panic, but it is for preventative, precautionary measures. Emblo yumi wasta so to make certain that 14 days yumi look na straight in. We as a government would fail if we didn't put those precautionary measures in place.
Lae MP John Rosso has urged people not to panic, for shops not to take advantage of people and raise their prices, and for basic hygiene to be practiced. Police will be ramping up their presence in Lae and surrounding areas, and the 2-week shutdown will also include schools and markets.
As per edict from our Security Council, all schools in the city will shut down for a period of 14 days as of Tuesday this week.
And even with just one imported case, the Morobe Provincial Health Authority is preparing its capacity for a possible outbreak. Additional bed space is being made available.
32 beds in a couple of days, isolation centre, and in another 10 to 12 days we'll have another 32 beds for isolation. So we'll have, within a couple of weeks we'll have 64 beds capacity for isolation. We have in the process of talking with Wafi Golpi and seeing they've got tent sites that we're trying to pull down and demobilise and bring to town, where we're then looking at locations where we can set up a tent hospital, if you'd like, for the terminology, for the image.
Scott Waide, National MTV News, Lae.
Aerial and ground surveying of the Lae-Finschhafen Highway has commenced within the section of Hobu in Nawai to Pindiu in Finschhafen. Last week, Finschhafen MP Rainbow Paita took the developer's China Railway on a tour of existing road conditions and routes where the highway will run through.
The contract for the multi-million Kina Lae-Finschhafen Highway or Fisika Highway was approved last week by the government. The 100 kilometers highway will run from Bukawa in Nawai district to Pindiu in Finschhafen. A week after the approval, Finschhafen MP Rainbow Paita took the developers for an aerial survey as well as ground assessments of existing roads and routes where the highway will run. This was so the developers can cut costs to stay within the approved funding of over 200 million Kina for the highway. The local MP will be focusing on the section from Hobu in Nawai to Pindiu and to Headsback in Finschhafen. The road is one of other projects in Finschhafen district. During his visit to the district, Mr. Paita also launched the jetty project in Buki and visited other project sites for a hydro plant and an agriculture park. The Fisika Highway, once opened, will open economic doors for the district as well as the province. It will connect Lae, Nawai, Finschhafen, Sialum, Kabung and Serda in Medeng. The Fisika Highway was one of 6 economic roads of Morobe province that were submitted to the national government for funding. The other roads are the Sialum Ring Road, Arab Dinangat Tep Highway, 40-mile Silisilo to Minyama Highway, Bulolo Wau to Goilala Highway, and Makam Bridge to Sialum to Morobe Station Highway. Charlene Airy, National MTV News, Lae.
The Education Department is focused on improving the education system in the country to ensure quality education for all. Education Minister Joseph Yopi made this announcement when launching the Alesco payroll system in Oro Province recently. The minister said the government is now focused on the quality of education.
Speaking to the people of Oro, Education Minister Joseph Yopi highlighted the importance of quality education and the department's plan to improve the education system. He said previous governments have been focusing on getting more students into schools, and the quality of education in the country has dropped over the years.
We've addressed the quantity, but we have not addressed the quality of education.
In an effort to improve the education system, the department has introduced the 166 or standard-based curriculum, which is now being used in most schools in the country. This is not a new curriculum to be used in the country. Under this curriculum, the department will do away with the elementary school system. The minister said the elementary school system has affected students' ability to understand English.
Na yugla sawe papa mama, elementary school also learning when them long classroom. All is the learning took place inside long classroom. And that brings the level of learning of our children down.
According to the minister, early childhood education will be introduced under the standard-based or 166 curriculums to replace elementary schools. He said there is an early childhood education policy already in place, awaiting NEC approval. After its approval, the 166 curriculum will be changed to 366 to include early childhood education.
Those elementary schools will be converted to the early childhood program that will be introduced. So we have the first 2 years of early childhood education and we have the prep. So that's 3. So we have 366, 3 years of early childhood and preparatory, and then you go into grade 1 to 6 and it goes on from there. So
the minister further announced plans for a complete restructure of the education department. He said this is to ensure teachers' welfare are taken care of.
So my direction is to have a total restructure of the department to see what areas that we can realign, what areas we need to cut out, so that we have the right size manpower in the department, so that they are all productive in the department.
Rayon Lakingu, National MTV News.
The Education Department will be working together with all districts in the country to establish the Flexible Open and Distance Education or FODE centers in the district. Education Minister Joseph Yopi said this is to ensure students continue their education if they cannot continue through the formal education system. He said FODE over the years has produced many good results and the department will continue to roll out this program. He further challenged students to make use of the FODE program to continue their education.
FODE will also be under the Department of Education. When I mention FODE, I want to make mention here that FODE is one of the areas that we will be working together with all the district authorities. We want to make sure that FODE centers are established in all the districts. FODE is something that will help our students, those who cannot make it through the mainstream, they will go through the FODE system. Now FODE, when they go through the system, they will have equal opportunity to apply when they complete the FODE, complete grade 10 or grade 12, they will have equal opportunity, just like the mainstream student, to enter universities, colleges, or other places they want to go.
This is MTV National News. We'll be back with more after the break. Welcome back to the news. Cases fixed for hearing at the Commission of Inquiry into the UBS loan between Monday the 23rd of March and Thursday the 9th of April is deferred until Tuesday the 14th of April. Chairman of the Royal Commission, Sir Salamo Injia, announced the deferral following the 14-day lockdown notice issued by the government yesterday. Those witnesses and persons who wish to comply with previous directions may do so electronically or contact the Commission's Secretary. The Commission's notice of deferral is in response to the government's request issued to all departmental heads to embrace safe workplaces and stay home in the next 14 days. Turning overseas, Tonga has shut its borders, cancelling all flights in and out of the kingdom as the Pacific ramps up the response to the coronavirus.
have been declared in both Tonga and Samoa. These passengers at Auckland Airport anxious after their flight to Tonga was abruptly cancelled this morning.
It's hard because the longer they stay, they have no money to carry on living. They're afraid that they might overstay.
Immigration New Zealand says people currently in New Zealand who cannot get home can apply for a special visa extension.
Australia's Prime Minister is calling on the Anzac spirits to help get the country through, quote, the toughest year of our lives. People are lining up at welfare centres as businesses shut down and parents in some states are being urged to keep their children home.
Is heading further into shutdown.
All non-essential activities, including businesses. So no going to restaurants, no going to pubs. That would be enforced.
Pubs, clubs, gyms, cinemas and places of worship shut because of the virus, while cafes and restaurants allowed to do takeaways only.
We do understand that it's more than just a club being open. This is certainly about people's lives and livelihoods.
Public schools in Victoria and Canberra will be closed tomorrow. In Queensland they'll stay open, and in Tasmania and New South Wales too, but parents are being urged to keep their children at home if they can.
So I have to talk with my company if I can see that if I can work from home from tomorrow, or if my husband can help me in that.
The Prime Minister says these restrictions are likely to last 6 months.
It is important that we do all we can to ensure in the difficult months ahead that no Australian goes through this alone. So we summon the spirit of the Anzacs, of our Great Depression generation, of those who won the great peace of the Second World War and defended Australia.
Unemployment's forecast to hit 7% by the end of the year, many already congregating at welfare centres desperate for help.
With all the shops closing and everything, I'd say half my business is gone.
So far, $189 billion has been pumped into the economy.
May God bless us all Australians, at this very most difficult time.
Scott Morrison promising more help is on the way.
New Zealand is preparing to go into isolation as a nation. The country will go into lockdown tomorrow and schools will be shut from tomorrow as the number of coronavirus cases jumped dramatically in the biggest one-day increase so far. 36 more people have been tested positive for COVID-19, taking the total toll of confirmed cases to 102.
Blunt message, the stakes laid bare.
Without the measures I have just announced, up to tens of thousands of New Zealanders could die from COVID-19.
All non-essential businesses must now close.
All bars, restaurants, cafes, cinemas, pools, museums, libraries, playgrounds.
So on Wednesday at midnight, we're going into lockdown. Everyone who doesn't perform an essential service needs to self-isolate.
If you hang out with your friend at a park or see a family member for lunch, you risk spreading COVID-19 and extending the nation's time in level 4.
People like supermarket workers, pharmacists and food suppliers can go to work, but for everyone else, stay home. There's no school and all other businesses must close.
But I am concerned for mental health and mental well-being for not only our staff but other family members, so everybody just has to show love without touch, however that will work.
Anyone outside their home city needs to travel home, and all these rules will be enforced.
Hopefully we'll never need the Defence Force, but you always want to be prepared. So they're quite willing at our direction to work alongside us while we're out in the communities.
A move quickly backed by the opposition.
And now I just urge all New Zealanders to get behind it and to ensure that they are following the instructions that they will be getting.
Some say it's about time.
I think this will interrupt the virus, and I think we have to really applaud the government for showing real leadership, and it's a really hard choice, but it's absolutely the right thing to do.
We're now operating as if we have community outbreak, and the hope is this will give us a chance of getting through this pandemic without flooding our health system.
We currently have 102 cases, but so did Italy once. Now the virus has overwhelmed their health system.
I would expect that we will continue to see more cases each day. And again, we're doing a lot of testing now, between 1,200 and 1,500 or 1,100 and 1,500 tests a day.
The government topped up its package for business. It's now $9 billion. But it's tough news for those having to shut up shop for now.
We've got 10. And are they goodbyes today? Maybe, yeah.
This is big.
I do not underestimate what I'm asking New Zealanders to do. It is huge. And I know it will feel daunting.
A daunting new normal beginning on Wednesday.
The global death toll from coronavirus is now close to 15,000 people, and cases are continuing to spread to more countries. In the United States, the federal government is scrambling to stay ahead as New York's surge in cases reaches 5% of the world's total.
City that never stops, New Yorkers are resisting isolation.
I don't know what they're not understanding. This is not life as usual.
The state's under pressure to join 8 others that have enforced full stay-at-home orders.
When we say you can go out for some exercise, we're not saying you can linger. We're not saying you can make a day of it.
A crucial vote on the country's stimulus package delayed after Senator Rand Paul tested positive for the virus. He and several others quarantined. There's big questions over whether America has enough supplies. The Federal Emergency Management Agency unable to give answers.
How many? Which masks? The new masks?
Well, I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of millions of things that we're shipping from the stockpile. I mean, I can't give you the details about what every single state or what every single city's doing.
Meanwhile, social scenes in Germany far different from the norm. Public gatherings of more than 2 people now banned. People will not be allowed in groups of 3 or more in public unless they live together or if it's for work. Police will be monitoring the new rules. And Ms. Merkel herself now in isolation. Mother's Day essentially cancelled in the UK. Families urged to stay away from visiting parents as politicians consider further shutdown options.
We will keep the implementation of these measures under constant review.
Restrictions on daily life getting even tighter in Spain. Its state of emergency extended, meaning scenes like this in Madrid likely to stay until mid-April. Italy's recorded 651 deaths in the last day, a slight drop from previous days, but pushing the country's overall toll past 5,000. In India, as the clock struck 5, people across the country welcomed the end of a 14-hour curfew. Its railway system, which carries more than 25 million people a day, now cancelled until the end of the month, as countries all over the world battle to get ahead of this pandemic.
And now looking at the NASFund market report, the Kina opened unchanged at $0.2920 US in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your Kina was buying $0.2845 US, 0.4954 Australian, 0.2593 Euro, and 30.96 Japanese yen. Looking at the commodity prices at New York close, gold is trading higher, coffee, cocoa, and copra closed higher, palm oil closed higher, while crude oil is trading higher and copper closed the day lower. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 20,087.19 points lower. The ASX is trading at 4,816.62 points lower. The All Ordinary is trading at 4,854.32 points lower. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll bring you more stories on the COVID-19 affecting our country. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news and to our top stories. Public markets and a handful of shopping centres in Port Moresby will remain open during the 14-day lockdown to provide essential services for city residents. Following a meeting with the National Capital District Commission and the business community in Port Moresby, it was suggested that there should be controlled movement for the next 14 days and not a complete shutdown of the city. The preventative measures taken by NCDC are in line with the national government's efforts against COVID-19.
As the country prepares for the 14-day lockdown period, residents in Port Moresby will still have access to public markets, shops and pharmacies at Vision City, including medical services. However, places of public gatherings like bus stops and sporting venues will be restricted as per directives issued by NCD Governor Paul Sparkop, discouraging the gathering of more than 100 people. Schools in Port Moresby have taken advanced school holidays, while the aviation industry prepares for a 2-week closure as relevant authorities come together to fight against COVID-19 in Papua New Guinea.
We are seriously thinking of closing the markets, but if we can do social distancing in the market, the vendors are 2 meters apart, perhaps we can keep on leaving the market open. But, this is a decision that we will have to take some time to consider, because it has a direct impact on the livelihood of our people.
Following the announcement of a state of emergency declared throughout the country for 30 days, the Prime Minister has announced restrictions on domestic flights, and there will be no movement of people from one province to the other. As of last Friday, PNG reported its first positive COVID-19 case in Lae. While the person of interest is in isolation, results from samples from 10 other people he came in contact with are yet to be released by the Institute of Medical Research.
There is no indicating evidence of an expansion of this virus as yet, but precaution is better than cure, and we've taken necessary steps to ensure that we cease unnecessary expansion of this virus, and hence the state of emergency. In the state of emergency, the police commissioner is the controller. He will be the controller. There's a concurrent call-out made. There's a call-out on police and army to work together and PNG Defence Force. So call-out placed on them. And within this 14-day period of state emergency, PNG Defence Force will work under the command of PNG Defence, the Police Commissioner.
As a result, the whole nation will undergo a 14-day shutdown while relevant authorities try to contain the spread of the virus. Along the PNG-Indonesian border, from West Sepik to Western Province, where there is not much control of people crossing the border, PNGDF soldiers on border operation deployment have commenced awareness in those areas, advising locals of the travel restrictions and the 14-day lockdown.
Divide our country into zones, and in the next 14 days, as we go into isolation, we will step up observation, take stock, assess, and those provincial coordinating units led by provincial administrator, PPCs, and provincial health authorities will be the response phase in which we at the national level coordinate and respond to them to ensure we correctly map out if there is intrusion, where the intrusions are, and we establish mitigating strategies going forward to arrest and stop this virus from spreading and stop it from killing people.
The novel coronavirus, or COVID-19, which affects the human respiratory system, emerged in China and as of yesterday has spread to 180 countries in the world, including Papua New Guinea. So far, 293,142 people have been infected with COVID, and the global death toll has exceeded 12,780. Thaklagunga, National MTV News.
Schools nationwide have been suspended for 2 weeks following the announcement by Prime Minister James Marape declaring a state of emergency yesterday after PNG confirmed its first case last week. This announcement was made by the Minister for Education, Joseph Yopi Yopi, in a media conference earlier this afternoon.
The direction by the Education Minister comes in consistent with the Prime Minister's statements yesterday to bring forward the term holidays and that the nationwide school suspension can mitigate the incidence of the pandemic, thereby reducing its impact on individuals, groups, the health system and the economy.
Last week, I announced that if
coronavirus or COVID-19 hits PNG, we are prepared to shut down the schools for a period as a step to stop the spread of the virus. The announcement of a confirmed case here in PNG and some unconfirmed case has given me no choice but to give direction as the minister responsible for education to suspend all classes from elementary, primary, high schools, secondary schools, national high schools, and vocational schools, both permitted and non-permitted schools nationwide. This is in line with the Prime Minister's announcement yesterday to suspend all schools for 14 days. The suspension will take effect immediately, commencing today, Monday, 23rd March 2020, for a period of 14 days or 2 weeks.
The approval for suspension applies to provincial institutions, that is elementary, primary, high and secondary schools, as well as vocational centers, inclusive also of national institutions, that is national high schools, special education centers, Ford centers, national tertiary institutions, that is teachers college, technical and business colleges, as well as all private schools that provide education in the country, adding that the suspension of classes must follow the specific protocols.
We will continue to assess the situation. If the number of affected people grows, a further decision will be made to extend the period of suspension. This is the decision I'm making as the minister responsible, consistent with Section 27 and 91 of the Education Act 1993.
Furthermore, the minister states that depending on the threat of COVID-19, after 2 weeks on the 3rd of April, when school is expected to resume, another direction will be issued if classes will resume for the final week of Term 1, the dates for Term 1 holidays, and the commencement date for Term 2, urging all parents to advise their children to stay home, practice personal hygiene, and engage in productive education tasks while at home.
Our decision to suspend classes is to keep children away from being exposed to the virus. I call on all parents and guardians to keep our children indoors during the period of suspension.
Annette Cora, National MTV News.
The Madang provincial government has decided to impose a 14 days controlled lockdown starting Tuesday at 6 p.m. Madang Governor Peter Yama made the decision last Friday after a meeting with stakeholders to prevent the spread of COVID-19 into Madang. The decision follows a positive case in Lae and also because Madang is not yet prepared to respond to the virus when it does arrive in the province. Flight restrictions and road checkpoints are two of the measures the Bulolo district will be taking to combat COVID-19, says local MP and National Planning Minister Sam Basu. With PNG's first confirmed case of COVID-19 imported and found in the Bulolo district, Basu says they will be working closely with stakeholders, the provincial government and the National Health Department to strategize on how to deal with potential outbreaks.
The airstrips and road access into the Bulolo districts are the main areas that will be looked at, with plans to quarantine the district. This will involve restrictions on flights and checks at identified spots along the highway into Bulolo. Local MP Sam Basil says these are some of the strategies that are being considered to contain possible outbreaks.
That means we will restrict flights from third level to first level, directly from Mosby, from Lae into my district, especially the Warrior LLG, WOW, and Bulolo airstrips. We will make sure that access into Bulolo in terms of putting up roadblocks at Makam Bridge or Warabong, and of course there's one access into Buang from Gabansis.
Last week, PNG reported its first COVID-19 case, which was imported. The patient, an employee of Harmony Gold's Hidden Valley mine in the Bulolo district. Basil says, as per the advice from the company's CEO, expatriates working at the mine will not be traveling to the site during this period.
Into Papua New Guinea, and let me put it on record, there are no plans for Harmony Gold to bring in workers from overseas into Papua New Guinea. The current workers up in the site are there, and there are no plans of bringing in. So,
the Bulolo district has set up a containment team that will be working closely with the provincial government and the National Department of Health, with plans to set restrictions. One of the concerns raised by business houses is having the continuous supply of goods and services.
So we will be very mindful of all those, but we will work very closely with the Department of Health to ensure that whatever processes that they recommend for us to follow, we will.
Yesterday, Bulolo MP Sam Basil met with district stakeholders to discuss and strategize on the measures that the districts will be taking to manage potential COVID-19 outbreaks in the district. Lucy Kopana, National MTV News, Bulolo.
Trukai Sports is next. Don't go away.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. The Papua New Guinea Rugby Football League has reiterated that the closure of sporting facilities and suspension of competitions is nationwide and not in Port Moresby only. Now, this comes after rugby league competitions outside of the city limits of Port Moresby continue to be played. PNG-RFL has suspended rugby league competitions in the 9s and 13s formats, including pre-season trials and training. Chairman of the PNG-RFL, Sandy Saka, said those that defy those directives would be penalized. The nationwide suspension includes the Digicel Cup, affiliate leagues, national schools and all domestic rugby league programs and international representative programs until Friday, June the 5th, 2020. We'll have more stories after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. Countries are threatening to pull out of the Olympics and the following Paralympics if they aren't postponed. The pressure is mounting on IOC bosses to make a call, with Canada's Olympic Committee confirming they'll boycott the Games if they aren't pushed back. And for the first time, the governing body of the Games has raised the possibility of postponing the Olympics.
For weeks, Thomas Bach has vowed the Olympics will go on as planned.
We all are healthy and looking forward to the meeting.
But the boss of the Games finally concedes that's unlikely, instead warning of a postponement of Sport's global showpiece.
Well, we fully support that in these really extraordinary times. It's good to hear that the IOC is now considering a postponement of the Games.
Ideally for us it would be postpone a year would be probably the best thing.
In a letter to Olympic athletes, Bach concedes as the COVID-19 situation deteriorates worldwide, they need to step up their planning. But a decision on anything is still 4 weeks away.
We'd prefer it to be sooner, but we understand the complexities of the arrangements they have to look into. How do you move such an event like the Olympic Games? It's 2 weeks, but it's a lot more than that.
The impact on Olympic and Paralympic athletes continues to be significant and has become considerably greater today with the elevation of the alert level. New Zealand swimmers will feel the effects. Key meets, including Olympic trials, off indefinitely. All pools to be closed under government guidelines. But on a greater scale, trying to peak for Tokyo is now enormously off plan.
It's a huge process in terms of peaking for that one competition. It takes just 3 weeks for us to do our final preparation. I guess it's sort of just thrown the spanner in the works and might have to change a few things.
And while that all goes on, there are more important personal problems to deal with too.
I'm more scared about what my mum and dad are doing in terms of their business and how they're going to struggle than my swimming. So the business will probably shut down, and then we have to think of other stuff, how to make money and stuff like that for them. So it's hard.
An already difficult situation becoming harder by the day for our top athletes.
And in rugby league, the NRL now faces a massive hurdle to overcome, with the state of Queensland moving to close its borders. The league was adamant it would continue even in light of Aussie rules pulling the pin last night.
Kick of AFL until at least the end of May.
There's no winners today. I think the decision, it was incredibly disappointing. I think the decision ended up being obvious today, but I would love to have finished.
But while Aussie rules has the luxury of deep pockets to soften the blow, the same can't be said for Rugby League, facing a $500 million black hole if it was to cancel the season. Now, along with the A-League, one of only a handful of contact sports in the world not to abandon its competition in the face of a health crisis.
Look, it is continuing. We said from the outset that we will listen to the government authorities and the health authorities and our experts. Nothing's changed from our end. The government authorities haven't told us to shut down or not play.
But the Queensland state government's decision to close its borders looks to have effectively done it for them. There had even been talk of keeping the competition alive by basing around 500 NRL players and officials in Calliope, a central Queensland mining town, just under 700 kilometres away from the Warriors' current base in Kingscliff, New South Wales.
I think the NRL need to take advice from experts, but I do believe if we can keep the game going, we should. I mean, time's going to get real tough for people, the way things are going in the near future, and if they don't have something to look forward to, they don't have sport to watch on TV, all sorts of problems could occur socially.
The league rejecting the idea that the AFL's decision puts pressure on them.
Not really, because the AFL have got different circumstances. They've got teams throughout Australia, so they had to, they've got teams in Western Australia, South Australia, Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria. We've only got them in 3 states, so we can continue on without too much drama.
But in such fast-moving times, pressing on with business as usual looks increasingly unlikely by the hour.
You're watching National MTV News, the weather forecast for the next 24 hours when we come back.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always.
Weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region: Port Moresby, cloudy with chances of showers and thunderstorms. Daru, Alotau and Popondetta becoming cloudy with evening showers expected. Kerema, partly cloudy with evening showers expected. Over to the Momase region, Ley and Madang becoming cloudy with evening showers expected. Wewak, mostly fine, then few evening showers. Vanimo, mostly fine, then morning showers expected tomorrow. In the New Guinea Islands region, Lorengau, cloudy with few evening showers. Kavieng, cloudy with a few showers. Kokopo and Rabaul, cloudy with few showers later on tonight. Kimbe, cloudy with showers and thunderstorms. Buka, becoming cloudy with a few showers and thunderstorms expected. And finally, in the Highlands region, in Mount Hagen, cloudy with evening showers. Goroka and Kundiawa, cloudy with a few showers. Mendi and Wabeg, cloudy with rain showers. Forecast for small crafts for the next 24 hours. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border to Daru to Yule Island to Hood Point, Aramo Coast. Seas 0.5 to 1.5 meters. Waters of Samara Island in eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, with waters of Manus and its western group of islands, and with waters of New Island and Bougainville, seas 0.5 to 1.3 meters. Waters of East Cape to Cape Vogel to Finschhafen, with waters of Finschhafen through the VTS Dampier Straits to CSA Island to Long Island, with waters of Long Island to Madang to Bogia, to Wewak to Aitape to the northern PNG Indonesian border, and with waters of West and East New Britain, seas 0.5 to 1.0 meters. Ocean forecast for PNG areas: coral seas slight to moderate with southeast winds at 10 to 20 knots. Solomon seas slight with east to southeast winds at 10 to 15 knots. Bismarck seas slight with light and variable winds at 10 to 15 knots. Pacific Ocean, seas slight with northwest to northwesterly winds at 10 to 15 knots.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by MoneyPlus, with you always.
That's been the news, sports and weather for today, Monday, the 23rd of March, 2020. Now, for all the latest updates regarding COVID-19, tune in tomorrow at noon for the MTV Midday News reports. You can also follow MTV Online and our Facebook page, where we will be keeping you updated on everything COVID-19 here in PNG. For the rest of the evening, a pleasant viewing. Good night.